Good evening. Welcome to the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board, November 5th, 2024. Can we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Sherlin to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor? Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin? Aye. Mr. Picosta?
Aye.
Mr. Brace? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. We had draft minutes out for both of these, Peter?
Yep.
September 3rd and October 15th.
This morning. I believe there's also October 1st that we had,
Yes.
but we didn't approve it.
Right, so during the October, in the October 15th meeting, we were supposed to approve October 1st, but then we just let that slide. So, but I didn't send it out.
Okay.
I did send it out, but I didn't put it on the agenda, so we can't. And we also did the same thing for July 16th.
Okay.
So for the next meeting, which is the 19th, and I'll send those two out, hopefully along with today's. So,
Thank you, Peter. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Any revisions or motions to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve both the September 3rd and October 15th as written.
Second. Second. Motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Sherlin to approve the draft minutes of September 3rd and October 15th written. There are no revisions. All in favor? Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin? Aye. Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Mr. Bossy will not be here tonight. He's working the polls, so he's duly excused. Thank him for his service. Doing that. Attended an eelgrass presentation at the Great Harbor Yacht Club Friday. I'm not sure if any of us were there. Of course, Tara was there. Not sure if any of this is in your report, but it was certainly a very informative presentation. And everybody that presented, I believe, has worked with you and the Natural Resource Department. So good stuff there, and positive stuff, it seems, and it's wonderful that they have your department, you know, to team up with, and that you get this added information and minds thinking and finding things out. So if that becomes available to see, Tara will send us a link. Sure, it must have been recorded. We just don't know yet if it's available to view. Marine Department report. Anything sent in?
Not there.
Natural Resources report. Highway, please.
So JC and I are trying out a new program where we're sharing a spreadsheet so he can enter data from his truck and I can get it in real time, so that I can report to you guys. And so far with 3 days, it's going well. It's just basically people that he's checked though, so I don't think it's like fully represents everybody that's out there in front of bushel counts, but we're, so the first day there were like 123 bushels that came in, and we're up to about 270 right now, but I'm pretty sure we're probably missing a few from there. There are about 21 boats out the first day according to his numbers, with the opening price at 12. The average weight I've been hearing is 6.5 to 7 pounds per bushel. And at the docks today's panel, I mentioned that he was hopeful that it would come up to around 18. I don't know when.
It's 14 now. Went up $2 yesterday.
Okay.
The weight on Monday was close to 7. It's back down to probably 6 now, because JC has decided to strictly enforce the level box. Which I've gotten 5 calls from different scholars to ask to go to 6 if we're gonna enforce the level box. So, it's out there. Yeah, my weight the first day was about 35 pounds, and I crowned them the way I normally would crown them. They weren't level, I'll be honest, they were up a little bit. JC told me not to do that anymore, so now they're level, and the last 2 days I've had 30 pounds. Both days.
So what happens when they're over? Does he come with a stick
That's what he said he'd do.
and then those get put back in the water or?
I don't know what
Go on
happens
his
to it. It's
fridge.
I've never had a stick actually go over a box. I've had a warden tell me that he was going to not ground them, and then he would stick them, but
It seems like,
it's kind of,
it's
it's his call. It does say in the regs, level box, so.
it seems like the rounding of boxes has pushed the fishery away from going up to a 6 box. Like, but then that'll be one more box per license. JC's gonna have to look at and level off and.
It's it's not my call, it's his call, he's a shellfish warden. And there's a definite line there with what's a crown box and what's a ridiculously crown box, I mean, we've all seen that. So, right now, everybody's level in their boxes, so that's what's going on. So the weight went from 35 to 30, roughly. Oh, about a pound a box is what you get when you put an inch on the top of a box, that's what everyone always did.
Who was the scalper who stacked the scallops in to get as many as possible?
There was probably a few of them, but the guys have tried everything, stretching boxes and, putting them in the oven to make them, I don't know.
Shirley Susie used to stack them and throw out bags when it was bags.
There are, if you stretch them and shake them and you can get a little bit more in, but the reality is you're not getting much more than 6 pounds of box. So, I will say that from the 3 days in, Jimmy can give you his opinion. I think the scallops, the meats are much bigger and healthier than last year.
Yes.
Although I fished Hussey Shoal today because I wanted to fish close to the harbor because I had to come in and pick up Ray after he got off shift, and they looked beautiful, but they were not beautiful. Probably 1 in 5 was, I guess, last year's scallop maybe. Shells nice and healthy looking, but you cut it open, a little bitty eye, and you're dead. And then I noticed, I'm curious if you've seen them. Seems like a lot of the meats, more than I've never seen, have little black specks in them.
Yeah, I found that.
I don't know what that is, but
Sure.
Search the vineyard, sent me a picture of that. He said they get them in Showmar, I think 10% or more like that.
we had a bunch today on Hussey. I mean, the scallops looked real good and healthy on Hussey, but then when you shucked them, quite a few of them were. I think they were just basically last year's scallops that didn't get caught because the shells were big and but as soon as you ripped them open, the eye was. But I don't know. There's quite a bit of grass on Hussey, which is good to see. On that end of the harbor, I thought that would be the one end that would probably take the most abuse, and it's nice, healthy grass, so.
Let's entertain more of this discussion at the end of the report.
Okay, side note with boxes though, we did obtain a supply of 100 boxes to keep in the garage for replacement and purchase. Or if people need additional.
That's good to know. That's the word.
Yes, pass the word on that.
Yeah,
Boxes are available here on island at,
Natural
Right next door.
resources.
Is there a reason why you guys chose red?
I like red.
I would think the color, but they do float.
How much you charge?
I'm not sure. It's just whatever the cost is. We bought them in bulk, so it would be the cheapest for new line. I'm not sure how Jeff is handling the money, but they're there. All right, so just to recap on the Great Harbor Yacht Club presentation, we had a weekend with the Great Harbor Yacht Club where their foundation portion of the club sponsors some scientific advisors that are really prominent in the industry as far as like restoration, whether it's bay scallops or eelgrass, and they usually come this time every year for a couple days, give a presentation, and we have access to them and their advice and talking and bouncing things off and showing the harbor and all of that. So on Saturday, our department pitched a expedited eelgrass management plan to the Great Harbor Yacht Club board, hoping that that will get funded in the next few weeks and it can be complete by July 1st of next year, so we can hit the ground running. It will incorporate, if approved, all the, any NGOs that want to be involved in the formation of the plan. And it's going to be reviewed by the scientists that kind of helped us draw up the scope for it. And we'll go through the public process as well. The only difference is it's, going to be privately funded, so we don't have to go through procurement and all of that sort of.
Entirely funded by GHYC.
I'm hoping. I'm not gonna say for sure.
And up till now, scientists were there. And of course, the presentation itself, sponsored by GHYC alone.
Everything is sponsored by them, yes.
Well, they deserve a big shout out of thanks
Yeah,
for jumping in like that with this.
it's been really great. They ask us every year who we want to engage with, and they usually make it happen, so it's really awesome. We have access to. We have one more set of spat lines, we run in the second to last set. There were a few seeds in them, not very many, and there's no date as of yet for pond openings. We're having a hard time
Contracted.
contracting the heavy equipment.
Do we have a window when we have to do it by?
Not on this end,
But in the spring, yes.
in the spring we do.
Water's still warm, though. That's a good news. And July transition from one.
And that's all I had. We had the Boys and Girls Club, who all the kids were off school today. They were in the hatchery learning about oysters and stuff.
Nice. Well, just to finish out the thank you to the Great Harbor Yacht Club, we wouldn't have a great harbor, without participation like that. So it's really gives me a good feeling.
They've been good stewards to the town.
Yeah.
In the water.
Yeah. So back to the boxes, Bob, you've brought up a good point. If the level box, and I've heard, there's a difference. There's that line between crowning and over crowning, and I've heard JC himself say, look, when I see a box go from the boat to the dock and they're rolling off, that's just a red flag, unintended, but and maybe that's what is needed. Instead of him having to discern that crown box, every box, how many boxes, 20 boats, how many guys are fishing double? We've got a lot of boxes for him to look at there, and a lot of crowning for him to continue to have to make a decision about, and I can see where just with your average crown, you scrape off the average, what we all may consider an acceptable crown, scrape that off, and you're probably gonna fill another box.
We won't fill quite a box, right?
Right.
With a half
Close, yeah.
It's just, it's his call. He's the shellfish.
And I agree with that.
And whatever he just tells us to do, we're all gonna do. So just.
Well, and his job shouldn't be made any more difficult than it needs to be.
I really don't wanna go to a 6 box at this point.
Yeah.
But I would say no.
I'd say that research can support it, yes, but price wise, we're
Yeah.
being dropped again.
Exactly. So I'd rather,
Well, as far as the price goes, you know, that really bothered me as well. You know, I guess it's really not supposed to be within our purview, but to me, I feel like kinda should be because it's important to the fishery. And when you start, when you hear $12 a pound, I'm thinking back to what year was $12 a pound a good price?
Yeah, 2005, I think, when it dropped.
So
to
like
like 10 for
bringing,
part of
bringing
it,
us
but-
back almost 3 decades. And meantime, you know, a
Just like
slice
this.
of pizza is up to what, $6 a slice now, and in the nineties, they were $2. So,
But Andy, I'm sorry,
yes, Peter.
I would love to get someone to tell us whether we can actually fight about money, because the price is a big part of it, and understanding what's going on, I don't think we can make a decision, but I think we should be able to at least get information about what the price is and what's going on, and kind of
Can,
hamstrings us.
can we encourage the NSA to step in? Maybe they're not even aware that
I don't-
this is, I mean, you know, to help with, promoting the product, it's trademarked or whatever.
I don't think that there's a whole lot that this board can do, to be
No.
honest, I mean. And this is something that is not gonna get fixed this year, in the next month or so, it's just not. It's something that, maybe the fishermen and the NHA need to sit down and try to figure out something. But really it boils down to right now is,
You
we
mean
only
the
have two
NSA?
buyers, we only have two buyers in there.
You mean the NSA?
The NSA, excuse me. We have two buyers. We have Eddie and we have Charlie. And Glidden's really not buying scallops anymore. And when you take the third buyer out of the equation, it causes a glut. And, you know, there's a lot of scallops in the vineyard, there's scallops in the Cape, there's scallops.
I'm not gonna buy that as an excuse, I don't think.
No,
You think back to what 150 boats were out
I
there,
know,
and 6
but we
bags.
had more than two buyers back then, people found that, and that's the difference now, so.
Well, that's a huge difference, and actually, there were 3 buyers on Friday.
Who
And
was the third?
Woods,
He was only buying from two fishermen on Fridays.
but he's a buyer then.
He didn't buy because the fisherman didn't sell to him because of the
Exactly,
price. But-
exactly.
But if I walk in there, I'm gonna try tomorrow, I'm gonna walk in and see if I'll buy my scallops.
Now we're talking about that product not being able to be sold in a way.
Right.
And it's sitting around for another day, so now we're getting into the health of the product.
When you're getting, the market's changed now from where you used to have a healthy competitive market to where if Jimmy was a buyer and I was a buyer and you were a buyer, you would buy from any scalloper that walked in with a bucket. And if you raised the price a dime and the guys that were selling to me went to you because you raised it a dime, which used to happen,
Yeah.
then we would raise it a dime. Now you've got buyers that say, if you don't sell to me every day for the whole season, I'm not buying your scallops. They're holding you ransom.
Yeah.
They don't care what, you're gonna sell me your scallops every day, I'm gonna dictate what the price is, and if you don't sell to me every day, then I'm not taking your product. And that's where the market's changed. And
What about Ken Crossfield?
I sell to Ken, and he buys from a couple, 2 or 3 boats, and that's it. You know, we get enough for him for his market, but it's a niche market. You know, there's just not, it's different. It's different than what it was 5 years ago.
I would say part of it too is the buyers here, the fish markets make all their money in the summer, and this is kind of just like something for them to do in the winter almost, so it's not really a competition.
Well,
They make
honestly,
money to-
And
Sounds
the
fine.
way you just put it, I'm gonna come right out and say it's flat out lazy. There. And from the way that I have interpreted it, from the way scholars have talked to me, they're not being aggressive in fighting the markets and fighting. The scholars are ending up.
That's what we feel, but I can tell you from one of the buyers who's talked to me numerous times about this, that he said, nobody's ever invited me to a shop meeting to talk about it.
Don't have to
We
be
invited. and it, you know, he says, well, you know, it's a niche market now, it's not like it used to be, we can't ship these things all over the place, and people don't want them, and, you know, whatever.
We heard all of those when buyers came in the past. We've had buyers.
But the reality is you have two buyers now,
Yeah.
and only one that really ships off island. I don't know if Charlie ships or not.
If he does, it's not a whole lot, I don't think.
So, you know, Ted, in fairness to Ted, whatever he buys, whatever that he can't sell locally, he sends to off island every day. But you don't have buyers that are aggressively trying to ship this product around the country.
And there's a retailer wanting to have them in their case, because they have sea scallops in their case right now. And that retailer was told by the two buyers here, talk to you next week. There don't seem to be many out there.
Because they're selling all they can sell right here locally. They don't want to
This
ship.
is a local, they could be selling them.
Yeah.
To this new outlet downtown, and they're not being aggressive with that. All I'm getting at, I guess, at this point, I don't wanna consume a lot of time on it, but Peter, you've always said we can't talk about price. How do we can we separate price? I mean, right now, this discussion has been about accessibility to selling them. It doesn't matter about the price.
But see, the
If
thing
they're,
is,
if guys are gonna go in, and end up not selling it, for whatever reason that may be, you know, can we have discussion about, you know, about the marketing without talking about the price?
thing is, the price, what the price is influences, it would seem to me it influences fishermen's behavior.
Mhm.
And so if it's a great price, then you're gonna be, then that's gonna affect what you do in the water. If it's a, you know, the price is low, then maybe you'd want to round your box because you'd have more scallops and be able to sell more and you'd get more maybe. But if it was high, then it's the same thing. I mean, the thing, and so that has bearing on what we have to talk about. We have to talk about enforcement. We have to talk about various scalpers. We have a scalper that comes to us that has a grievance against JC because he was rounding his boxes because the price is so low, he wanted more to sell. You know, that was Wendy who said that. And I would just love to get, maybe we need a legal opinion because it seems like something that we always end up talking about. No one comes kicking in the door and saying, all right, everybody quiet, we can't talk about that.
So I
I don't know.
mean, I have one main concern with this whole thing. And it really doesn't have anything to do with rounding boxes or any of that, but here we are, we've spent the last 20 years aggressively trying to keep the harbor as clean as possible and as healthy as possible. And the TARS department has done a phenomenal job of growing all these scallops on top of the natural spat that we have. And my biggest fear this year is January 1st rolls around here, and we're not gonna catch all the scallops in this harbor. They're gonna die in the shell, because the last 2 years, if you didn't sell to Teddy, or you didn't sell to Charlie every day for November and December, then you had no market for your scallops come January 1st. And I would say probably a third to half the fleet right now is shipping scallops off island. They're not selling to the local buyers because the prices are so bad. And I would guess to say, because I'm one of those people, that come January 1st, my ability to sell scallops is going to go from 5 days a week down to 1 or 2 days a week. And if we have all these scallops in the harbor, the fleet goes from 21 boats to 6 boats. Are we going to catch all the scallops in this harbor? Now, Bruce Cowan told me that he got his limit every day last year, with the exception of 3 days, and he got his 5 boxes quite easily on the last day of the season, to the point where he actually thought about coming to us and asking us to extend the season into April. And if we don't have a market in January, February, and March, then why are we growing all these scallops? You know, maybe the solution is to open October 1st, like Cape does and Vineyard does.
Is it the 1st or the 15th?
I think it's town. Summer.
Orleans opens October first, I think every town opens the 15th, and then, I don't know, but somewhere in October. And we've always said we don't wanna do that because we want to give family scholars a good month to get what they wanna get. Which we've been doing this forever, the same way, but we gotta figure something out, because otherwise we're gonna have scallops just dying in the shell.
I have a hard time believing, I get behind a Sid Wainer truck. And it says, serving the finest restaurants in New England. And why our scallops aren't leaving in one of those empty trucks that's refrigerated and being distributed to the finest restaurants. And to say that the market fluctuates with demand or the availability of the scallops, I have a real hard time believing that, because restaurants change their menu some weekly. Restaurants can run specials anytime, and I would think the Nantucket Bay scallop on that menu kind of eyes go to that, and so this loss of popularity, or whatever the buyers are saying, that there isn't as much demand for them. I just think that the aggressive selling of the product has lost its traction. And I think some more aggressiveness needs to take place there somehow. So, and what that may be, there's all kinds of ideas. The NSA is great with ideas, and several fishermen have ideas as well. So, and I had not to get too far off the subject, but I know we lost just out of age, and he's moved off island. Bob Rennick's gone. How many fishermen are not fishing with us this year, and how many new have come in to
It
take
seems
their
about the
place?
same.
Yeah.
We lost
know
3 or
that
4,
Mark
but we got 3 or 4
finally
new
got his
boats.
license and rigged the boat, so.
Bob sold his boat to the kid that scalloped with him before, but he's not fishing right now because he's making more money painting than he is at the scallop price.
Yeah.
But there's 3 or 4 new guys that are fishing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, 'cause a lot of this to me is also the survival of the fishery itself, and that's really the biggest factor of it, that we should be concerned.
I think this is more of a mission for the Nantucket Shellfish
Yeah,
Association,
I
and the
agree.
fishermen than
Yeah.
it is for us. I mean, we can help them as much as we can, but as Peter said, this is really kind of out of our
Yeah.
realm of.
What was it last year when Ken came in? Was it
Yeah.
this past one when Ken came in, and he was talking about how it was sporadic for him to get the supply that people he needed, and so if Nantucket loses its I'm looking for a word. If we lose the notoriety for providing consistent supply of scallops going down the road, let's say that has to be November, December, and January. If we lose that, then the people who are buying them across the country or down in New York City or wherever are going to be like, it's not as good as it was. They're not buying as much, so they eat as much, so then the price goes down. But it's one of those factors, and then there's more scallops on the Cape and more on the vineyard, and that's probably part of it, but not all of it.
I'll give you an example. So Eastham has scallops this year. They scallop offshore in deeper water and big boats. But they sell their scallops, because I know the guys that fish over there, they sell their scallops to Red's Best. They get their 10 boxes per license, 2 licenses per boat. So each boat's bringing in 20 bushels a day. When they started, there were 10 boats. They're down to 4 now because the price dropped. But they opened at 30, they went to 25, then they went to 19, and they're at 15 right now. But when I say they're at 15, and this is what he told me a week ago, they may be back up. Their $15 price is they take the scallops in the shell and give them to Reds. Reds puts them in their refrigerator truck, drives them to New Bedford, and they shuck them in New Bedford. And then they pay them $15 a pound for the meats. So if you add in what we pay our openers, that's like $18 or $19 a pound. Now those same scallops are in Red's case at the Chatham Fish Pier. Because a buddy of mine sent me a picture yesterday for $48.99 a pound.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not saying that the fish markets don't need to make money. I don't know what they are right now. I think they opened at 26 and we were 12. And I know they all have overhead. They have, you know, they have buildings to maintain and vehicles and everything else, but to walk them from here to there and go up over 100%. This is never gonna get fixed this year. This is a in-depth, comprehensive conversation that needs to happen with the Shellfish Association and at least a dozen committed fishermen that are gonna fish for the whole year to market these things. I mean, I'll give you an example on my charter boat. I got people ask me all summer long, I'll buy scallops from you, you know, can you ship them to me? I don't have the facility to do that. And when Jeff Henderson first took over Glidden's, he was shipping scallops all over the country in little 2 to 5 to 20 pound bags. I mean, I would go there to drop my bucket off every night and there'd be 50 boxes going on the FedEx truck. And he's not doing that anymore, but there is a market there to do that.
Yes.
I mean, Coda does it to some extent. But it's gonna take, it's gonna take some planning, it's gonna take some figuring all this out.
And a facility.
Yeah.
So Jim, would it take what was the dirty word, but would it take a co-op to get organized to make something like that happen?
I don't know if it necessarily has to be a true co-op, but it needs to take some type of commitment from
Yeah.
at least a handful of fishermen that fish all winter, or at least a big part of the winter. It would take, and I guess this is the closest thing I could get to an example. What's just happened at the Hive, where you've got a building that numerous small businesses are using. So you need a place to take my scallops from today into a approved by the health department facility to put those scallops into an approved walk-in or even freeze them and then box them up and ship them out the next day. So you need a facility. We don't have that type of facility at this point, but it's something that we're probably gonna, you know, I'm the first one to admit it. I'm lazy. If I can drop them off at the fish market and not have to deal with it, it's a lot easier than having to deal with it. But
It's a lot more steps to that too, and then you have to have the markets to ship them to, and make sure you're not stuck with extra.
yeah, and you have to take, you know, and then you may have days when you don't fish because you don't have a market that day. So, you know, there's a lot of moving parts here. But
Well, it needs to be worked on through this time. You say it won't be resolved this year. And I agree with that, but we have to work on resolving it. Somebody needs to work on resolving it, or it's just gonna keep carrying on
I'm
into next year.
curious to see what happens in January
Yeah,
this year. It's because the market, the price started so low, maybe January won't be as dramatic a drop as we've had in the last couple of years. I mean, I don't know how it can drop. Last year it dropped, almost,
I don't remember. What's it, but
and go below 15,
20
did
to
it?
15 or something?
The newspaper had it wrong. They said last year opened at 15 and opened at 16.
we were 20 within a week.
Yeah, I don't really know for sure, but
I don't know. I can't. It's, you know,
I mean, on the other side too, if we didn't have the buyers here, I guess everyone would find their own market off. I don't know if that was the case if you want fish, but
yeah,
will they support? I mean, I don't know, they was gonna ship it somewhere, so. You know,
yeah. I mean,
they get used.
it used to be, it's a lot different. You know, it's different. I mean, Teddy sells to Fulton. There used to be buyers here that sold to Fulton in New York. So you had the Fulton market, you had the New York market, you had the,
Connolly and
you know, and I sell to Ken, as you said. And Ken's been doing this for 25 years, but he's 86 and he's like, I don't know how many more years I'm gonna do this. And
And all those outside influencers helped set the price. It helped bring it up because they had the demand was there and they were ready. They were licking their lips. They were like, you know, and they'd come down, their representatives would come down here and go out with somebody and get a sense
I
of it.
remember, you know, the
Yeah.
Clyde's restaurants in DC and they did the whole thing with Neil Crocker and the poachers citizen
Yeah.
and stuff, yeah, I mean. It's just. Times change, things evolve. COVID really threw a monkey wrench into fine dining and that whole thing, and they haven't never really recovered from it, and so. I mean, we'll see, hopefully the price will continue to inch its way up here, and I mean, 14 is a lot better than 12. I'd like to see it get up.
Still, the price is closer to hamburger, you know, than it is to fine.
Yeah, you know, Thanksgiving, usually there's a bump at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then we'll see.
Does sales or the sales, do they freeze a lot of the scallops so that they can stretch them out over the summer?
I don't know.
Cause I go get this scallop app in July, so they must, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's also a huge investment, to put scallops in a freezer. And then if anything goes wrong, you know, so I can completely understand why the buyers wouldn't wanna put you know, thousands of pounds of scallops in the freezer, one power outages and.
Yeah.
Gonna have a generator.
Yeah, it's, you know.
Still, it's even more overhead.
Interesting.
All right. I can say it's, you know, keep this in mind and talk to your friends on the board of the NSA. I don't know when the next meeting is. I'm still on the board. I didn't make the last meeting. I'll get in touch with the executive director tomorrow. See if they've, you know, had any discussion yet about this or if they're even aware.
We should make those, Nantucket brand based golf stickers available again if they're not available, because people have been asking about that.
The,
So I don't know if they're getting,
as for authentic, yeah,
that was a big thing for a year or two, and then
Yeah.
it disappeared.
I agree. It's catchy and I like that. All right. Any more discussion on natural resources report? Tara, do we have anything? Reviewing and updating the shellfish regulations. We kept this on here just to knowing that. it
I
is
don't think
before
so.
the
I
select
think-
board.
There are a few things that are like unfolding as the season is starting, that need probably further clarification, but I think that's like an internal thing with NRD, and then we need to decide when we wanna put it in front of the board, just to do the blanket approval for everything, but I need to give them a short sheet on what exactly has changed, so it's not too complicated and thrown out.
As far as, one thing I wanna talk about is, as far as in the future of raising the limit. Of course, now it's a little easier, what's the difference, Terry? You don't have to have the 3-week notifying of the meeting for select board, is that correct?
Don't have to have a public hearing.
Right.
I mean, since it's only really matters to fishermen, buyers for this, is it something that should possibly be a vote for the fishermen on raising it or not? I mean, I don't wanna see one person say, I have this great market, I wanna keep 7 boxes from November 1st till January 1st, and then I quit. And I don't know how that should go forward, but if it should be a vote by the fishermen, or how that should really
I think it
be.
I think it should be a discussion had at this level with SHAB, because in that regulation, it's under the advisement of NRD and SHAB. So I would hope that the fishermen would get together and come up with
Yeah, and the buyers,
consensus.
you don't,
I
the
agree.
last thing I do is raise the box and price go down.
Yeah, working hard as well, same amount of money.
And the openers are gonna complain. Yeah, it's just. I
Something I wanna
agree.
mention.
I think you're right, Bill. I think that I can't imagine in a situation where the sport would just decide, oh, we're gonna raise it to 6 boxes without getting input from all the parties.
Yeah, I'd just like to see multiple people say they want the same thing before. they
Yeah,
decide yes,
Maybe, if we ever got to that point, maybe we said,
I'm sure you can get everybody's
put a
attention.
flyer in everybody's truck.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think?
I'd be willing to hang out at the docks and talk to them, and I think, you know, this board would have the consensus, to do that, to speak with the fishermen, get, poll, yea or nay,
And the bottom.
so,
The last thing we'll do is go, yeah, we're gonna raise it, and all of a sudden.
They can't get rid of it now.
That's the one thing that I've noticed. Is. Cause I sell to Ken, but Ray ships his scallops off island. Is their price is dictated by what our price is. And we can, they just
Sure.
adjust their price according to our market. If our market goes up, our price goes up. If our market goes down, our price goes down. So you wouldn't wanna go to 6 boxes because somebody, like you said, has an account that he needs to get more scallops. And then, if our price on Nantucket goes down, so be it. It's interesting, vineyard scallops, most of the vineyard scallops go to the New Bedford auction. So their price fluctuates almost daily.
I think it's $18.10 the other day.
Yeah, and we never send any of our scallops to auction. And that might be an option too, is to, start figuring out a way to get these things in New Bedford and put them on the auction.
Jim, I can see exactly what you're getting at. And do you feel that should be something that's in writing to get a consensus from the fishermen before we as a board and RD make the decision? Or would it be safe to say that that's gonna happen?
I don't wanna see somebody get upset, the fact that they weren't asked or something, but I think you can get a general opinion by talking.
And the fleet's so small, we can take it for granted.
Yeah.
And with the board that we have now, having 2 active fishermen on board, we know we're gonna do that. As the board evolves over the years, what you're saying could make more sense depending upon who's sitting here.
But I guess having to do like a legal vote would be difficult for.
I think it'd be hard to put that into the regulations.
Yeah.
How would you word it? And what happens if one fisherman didn't get, notified yet? Contact one, you'd have to go and send out, you'd have to contact everyone who has a scallop license, whether they're actively fishing or not, right? You'd have to get some type of response back from them. Otherwise, I think you're gonna open yourself up to some type of legal. Who knows what, the whole idea was to be able to do this without having to go through a lot of rigmarole, so.
Yeah.
It's tough
I'm gonna show up the shot.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm just curious if you guys, so there's like an average number of people that fish in November and December, and then the number drops down. And so if the bushel limit was raised in January or February, when those numbers of people actually fishing go down, the volume coming in might not change from November and December. Do you think people will continue to fish in January and February that don't usually fish during that time because?
Well, we used to
Hard to
raise
say.
that in January.
The market has changed.
So
first,
it-
but-
Used to always be, the price started off low in November, but then in January, the price went up. And the last few years, it's been the complete opposite, the price has tanked. And we used to go to either 6 boxes or we go to Saturday fishing to get an extra day because of the weather issues. We don't get the weather issues like we used to, because we lose very few days to cold like we used to do, but. The last thing I'd wanna do is go to 6 boxes in January if the price is gonna go down 25 or 30%.
I guess it's also different.
I get it, I guess it's be on a year by year, case by case basis. It might also be advantageous to look at what's left out there and how many boats are fishing and say, maybe we should go to 6 boxes just so we can catch all these things, cause a lot of the scallops that I'm catching on Husky Shoal today were scallops that didn't get caught last year.
And I found some of those in Second Bend.
I think they're pretty much everywhere in the
Oh,
hospital.
wow, look at this is a big one, and then, some of the eye even took off with the gut.
Yeah.
So.
Like I had a bunch that I just threw away today. 'Cause
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah, too risky, throw in there, well, Tara, great question, and this is, yes, there's a lot of moving parts to it, but, at the end of the day, a lot of it, I think we all rely on what Bob just said as far as what's out there, and of course, your department has their eyes on that, with surveys and communication with the fishermen. You know, they're not gonna come in here and just say, let's raise it. Just like we're not gonna do it for one person. That the scenario you brought up, Jim, we're gonna turn to our town biologist and
This is not available.
for their professional opinion on this as well.
Let's stop that again.
The third year?
You know, that adult that we don't harvest this year, let's spat in the spring.
Yeah.
Is that chicken like hot?
It just sits there and eats, takes away from the other ones.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay. So, unless we hear from you, we can, remove the, shellfish regulation discussion from the next agenda. Thank you, Tara. Any more?
Do we have an idea when you think you want to get the whole thing to the select board for approval before spring? Is that what we're shooting for? Do we need to go over, the only thing I had a question, and this doesn't have to go on our next meeting, is are we comfortable with where the comp regs are on? Or do we need to look at those a little bit?
Can you let him out? Can you bring him out? When?
Jason, you might, mute, please.
You only have
Thanks.
two comp fishermen, so I just want to make sure they're all happy with it, so.
They were in.
Yeah, before I was on the board.
Yeah, and I think there was decent discussion between them.
Okay.
So, okay. Jim,
Actually, it might continue.
you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing else on shellfish regulations? Advisory 2, select board on vineyard wind and offshore wind in general. This is separate from the draft letter. So we'll start with this. This discussion is more towards, based on what we're charged with and the health of our waters and the health of our harbor. And as you all know, there's discussion out there, about the good neighbor agreement, whether it's good or bad. We've all read it. We've had some advice from 2 board members that are familiar with the law. It's not exactly, the best contract that they've ever reviewed, and appreciate that, outlook. Unfortunately, it's that type of an outlook, but I came to the same determination myself. I'm concerned that, mitigation for another issue like what took place in July, is unachievable. And, I believe it's a risk, to the health of our water, and I realize, I hear these, oh, well, there's been fiberglass boats breaking up in our waters for years. Well, this just adds to that, if that's an issue, and so it doesn't justify it. And, it's not just fiberglass, it's foam, and so. I would like to see us write a letter, or a letter of recommendation to the select board, giving them support. I don't think they know which direction they want to go at this point. And it's hard to tell because I believe all their meetings are still in executive session. We know what the Mariah Mitchell Association has decided. That really, doesn't have to have an effect and shouldn't have an effect on how we feel. I think their decision was based more on lighting. Honestly, the lighting, is not an issue for us, but the health of our waters is. So I wanted to try to draft something myself to present to the rest of the board. I did not. We don't have a full board here anyway, and I would, out of respect of the entire board, I would not want to vote on a recommendation to the select board without having consent from the entire board. And how, if the vote doesn't have to be unanimous, but, I would want all board members to be able to vote on that type of recommendation. So, I'll leave it at that at this point, if anybody else has anything they want to add on this topic, Mr. DeCosta.
I just have some comments on the letter.
Okay, so, on a separate letter, about offshore wind, as it says in general, if there's no more discussion on that, we'll move on to the letter. We'll move on to the letter, which is, letter to the select board requesting participation of a SHAB member, in all related matters. And that we appoint a board member, to be invited to all meetings that the select board holds, in relation to not just Vineyard Wind, but all of offshore wind. Mr. Bossy sent what
Yep,
he
I
felt,
got it.
and actually that sounds good. I would go with Mr. Bossy's recommendation for a revision to the letter on that. I don't know if the rest of the board has seen that.
I haven't seen a revision.
If, is it short enough to read? Peter?
Yeah, I can read it.
Hold on a second, Peter. Has everybody read Peter's draft?
Yes.
Okay, so try to relate Peter's draft to what Mr. Bossy suggested as a revision.
He says, sorry, I can't be there tonight, but wanted to offer a comment on the letter. The only thing I would change is that instead of formally requesting a seat at the table, he put quotes around formally requesting. I feel we should offer a SHAB member as an advisor. So,
It's a kinder, gentler way. And
This sounds a little more like a demand as compared to what Dave says is probably a nicer way to get them on board. You start ticking people off too much and they
It's
stop
like, wait a
listening.
minute. Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
well, in any way, we're not trying to tick them
No,
off.
but
But we know that can happen and I think it would be valuable to them to have one of us there simply as advisory.
Well, that was what I wanted to add to the letter was I wanted to put at least a sentence or two in there that given our expertise in water related activities. And we feel it would be a benefit to your board somewhere along those lines, like we talked about, like when I was on the select board. Often I would get looked to from the other members as a sounding board for what they thought about that. And that's really what this board is to the select board, and I think somehow we need to put that in the letter that we're offering our
Knowledge and experience
exactly on
versus
things related
expertise,
to-
I would say knowledge
to
and
water.
experience.
so that they know that we just don't want to pry into their own business. We're there to give them advice in that area of expertise.
And that's support.
Right.
So, I think it's a needed request. And I think it would also, help alleviate maybe some of the questions that are on their mind. I mean, Bob or Jim, if either one of you were at that table, I would like to think that you could offer opinions and facts, from your knowledge and experience on the water, so,
Just things like tides and
yeah,
wind.
it would only help them, not hinder them, so.
So. From Bobby, we feel our knowledge and experience would be a benefit to the select board, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you, did
Yeah.
you say you had, you said you had a couple sentences, is there something else?
No, that's exactly, I
Okay.
didn't have anything specific, I just wanted to,
Okay.
right now, the letter just basically says we want to be part of the group.
Yeah,
But we don't give them a reason why we think we should be there. I
Okay.
just wanted to give them a
Right.
reason why.
so maybe I'll take that and run with it.
Yeah, anything along those lines, Peter, I think you get the gist of what I was trying to do now, so. I don't have any specific wording, I just. If I was reading this as a selectman, I would wanna know why would Chev want to be on there? Wow,
Okay. And so then, once I edit it. Are we then bringing it back for the next meeting for you guys to look at it? You wanna do that?
yeah.
I mean, I
think-
heard what Vince said and it made sense. And then today, when I was writing it up and then going around during my day, I was thinking. It'd be a pain in the butt. To send it individually to each of you and then wait for each of you to get back to me and then create the version that we think might be the one and then get back to you again. It's just. And government moves slow enough that we're not gonna miss the boat by, waiting another 2 weeks, so.
I agree.
Well, I don't
And-
know if I agree with that. It seems like it's a hot item, but it's, at the same time, it's probably not being rushed along at their level either, because, they're taking their time to make whatever decision it is they're making.
It's
We did vote unanimously to prepare this letter. Are you saying you'd prefer that
Yeah,
it comes into the meeting
yeah, it should be.
and
it should
as a
be-
final draft, make sure there are no more revisions and vote on it again to send it out.
And if there were revisions, then hopefully what I would turn in would be, written well enough that I could just tweak it at home and send it so that you guys felt confident that.
Hopefully we'll have a full board too at the next meeting.
Right.
Cause it would be nice if it was a unanimous vote from the board.
I mean, it is the hot issue right now, but it's a slow moving thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And those other, they haven't even built out phase one yet. The other phases. It's, years away, so. That's, it's if they even, accept it and take us on, so.
They could just take this and decide they don't want to. Thank you, but no thank you.
It's all Bobby doing that,
So they're thinking,
No,
hopefully not.
Well, on this particular item, we've already had a unanimous vote. I don't know if at the next meeting, if we have this hammered out in the wording of the way we want it. If one or two board members are missing,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would.
No, I don't. I would-
Hold up on that vote for this. Anything new, like I said, backing up to the previous, I would want it to be a full board. But,
maybe it's-
and that's really up to you guys as well. It's up to the board. We'll vote next week. Hopefully it's revised properly. I think that's plenty of time to get it revised. I mean, you can send it out to us early so that we can come in with our revisions or email and we'll text them to.
Oh, I
you.
can blow it up to 5-6 pages if you want.
No.
With photos,
No,
graphs.
come on, I'm just, I'd like to be able to, I think
Yeah.
it would be wise to be able to vote on this letter.
20-minute PowerPoint presentation.
Sure, but if you could just stress to David, we'd love everybody here, not only
Yeah.
for that, but for the other thing, and then realizing that. The closer we get to Christmas, the more we
Yeah.
understand that people will be pulling away, so
Mm.
this will be a good meeting for that.
Lobster one.
Okay. Any more discussion on the letter of advisory for an appointment of, one of our members to be in on select board meetings? Due to offshore wind. Okay. Has there been anything, under health of the harbors, we had microplastics, has there been anything new? Scott, or,
Nothing new
Yeah.
at this time. No.
um,
It would be nice if though, I'll go on record that if Sheila would show up, because I'm sure we have plenty of questions on health of the harbor, that she could provide some feedback on what's happened this summer to.
How much was pumped out, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
and we usually get an end of season report and,
We need something.
yeah, so, okay, I'll reach out to Sheila.
She just did a post, someone did a post for the harbor master showing them pulling buoys and talking about what they do at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So from that, I know that that's what she's doing.
Yeah, she's pulling all the Attica buoys and.
Yeah, I've seen them on trailers, at Children's Beach and I'm sure they're doing the same in Connecticut, so, maybe she's winding down on her fall, projects and she can come in and give us a report. So keep that in mind, board members, to, have any questions. If you have any particular questions, for Sheila, I would like to, supply her with those questions, like the Friday or Monday before the meeting, so she can come in prepared. She has stated that she appreciates that, so, she can, if there's any information she needs to, look up.
What was, Andy, what was the thing that Sheila said we would be working on in the winter for the next coming season?
Was it dinghy dock?
Was it- She said we won't be tackling that now and we'll work on it in the winter. That could have been the dinghy dock stuff.
I think it's dinghy dock regulations, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's her and,
Those regulations.
Yeah.
It had to do with the, the Grand Point Marine or Tide. The chandlery there,
Mr. Franzuto. was
selling
more-
the inflatable dinghies that are under the limit. So people were buying those to have them as their personal boats and not dinghies, but then getting away with keeping them there and having 6, 7 stacked out and that was a problem for
It looks like it's a problem. I walked down there this summer and I was amazed at how many of those boats, and some of them have, 40-horse outboards on the back of them and they're not looking like dinghies to me and so.
So I think that's what it was,
Yeah.
so.
There may have been one other item though of discussion, and Mr. Franzuto would be familiar with what that is. All right, guys, so if there are any questions for Sheila, text it to me. I'll get it to her. Anything anybody would like to see on the agenda for the next meeting?
I have 2 things, they don't necessarily need to go on the agenda. One could go on the agenda at some point, is, and this is more of a question than anything, is the monitoring buoy at the end of, the anchorage. I noticed it the other morning when I went out in the dark with the yellow light flashing on it. I know they're collecting a whole bunch of data on there, who is doing that, is it Ryan Mitchell, or?
It's,
It's not you guys, is it?
no, it isn't Ryan Mitchell. It's supposed to be moved this week to the town dock for a couple of weeks and then removed.
I was just curious if we could get like a report or just
Yeah,
a
you can-
presentation.
You can actually, there's a link on their website. You can go and get real-time data, like it's
Oh, cool.
logging everything.
But it'd be great to know what they monitored over, because it's
Yeah.
been there all summer. At some
Yeah.
point, I'm sure they'll have a report. I'd love to get a presentation to this
Yeah.
board if we could.
They did report at that Eelgrass meeting, so if there's a copy of that, I'll. give it to them.
Is that the same buoy that was
Yep.
shown at the U-Gas meeting?
And
Okay.
then, I wasn't quite sure what the status was this year for the red flag. Cause it was hanging on, for years, it always hung on the flagpole at Grand Point Marine, and then there was some issue there, and then it ended up going to Great Harbor. I talked to Kevin Martin about putting it back there, cause the Angles Club now owns that building, and Ryan Mitchell has the lease, and he's one of the trustees, and he said that that shouldn't be a problem, so I will work on that between now and our next meeting so that JC knows he can put the flag back there where everyone can see it, because that's a much more visible place than.
Absolutely.
I think
Than
they,
Great Harbor.
they may have already asked that, because
Okay.
that was part of our discussion.
Well, if there's any issue with it, let me know, because
Yeah.
I can streamline that, so.
That's good to know, and I think that is,
At some
That's
point, though, I'd
okay.
like to have a conversation about having some type of text chain for JC. If we only have 20 votes, and it would be nice to be able to,
we
Get a
already did
text.
discuss that.
but I'd like to make it happen if it's
Yeah.
possible, because like last year when we had that little issue where the temperature dropped and we all had to come in and nobody knew what was going on.
Right.
Simple text would
Yeah.
be,
Well, his concern was, by doing the group text, that some guys, may end up with phone numbers of guys that don't want that person to have their phone number.
pretty sure everybody knows that phone number. And I think
That's pretty
at this
close.
point, like,
Whatever.
you know, like, there might be some guys in the fleet that aren't phone savvy or whatever, but there's enough of us out there that if I got a text saying the temperature dropped, you need to come back in, I'd go up to Jimmy or whoever and say, hey, we gotta go in, you know, it's not like.
No, we gotta have good communication. So how do you, should one of us reach out to JC about
Well,
that?
I think when we all filled out our Shellfish license, we all had to put a cell phone number into the license, so, we just, I guess we could.
We just need to clarify that it's gonna, I mean, basically, what's it gonna be about?
I think the
Temperature,
only time
red
it would be
flag.
an issue is if we were out fishing and the temperature dropped. Cause we don't, like JC told me that day that it's my responsibility to monitor the temperature, and I don't have a thermometer on my boat. So I don't, if I'm up in Third Bend, I'm not gonna see the flag if he puts the flag back up, so I don't know how it's my responsibility to monitor the temperature. But if the temperature
We
drops,
agreed on NOAA, right, which fuels the information to weather underground, right? So we agreed on the source, so that, and we had Bruce Beebe in here telling us that it's every 6 minutes that it gets updated. And so we all agreed that it was gonna be NOAA that you guys would look at.
no, that part of it I don't have a problem with. My
Yeah.
problem is when I'm sitting there and I'm culling and I'm hauling
Yeah.
dredges, I'm not aware of what the ambient air temperature is.
Right.
And I'm working, so I'm warmer than probably it seems to be. Where if the warden's aware of it, a simple blanket text to everyone saying, hey, the
Oh,
temperature
that's a
dropped.
good idea, but then,
Then we could all tell everybody, hey, I just got a text alert that says I gotta come in, we gotta come in.
but that's the same thing as taking the time to check the app, if you. So when you're culling, you have your phone somewhere that it vibrates and you know that you're getting a call, even with all your gear on.
Yeah, or I have my ear pods in or
Right,
something,
okay,
you know,
so-
yeah, my phone would vibrate in my pocket. And I would know on a
Yeah.
cold day, I'd pay attention to it, but I don't, you know, I could have a thermometer on my boat, Jimmy could have one in his boat, mine could be in the sun, his could be in the shade, they're gonna read two different numbers.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna take my phone every 6 minutes and check it. I don't take my
Yeah.
phone out of my pocket unless I have to, but.
I
I was under the impression prior to cell phones, once you're released from the dock, you're good to go for the day.
They have come out to get us before.
Yeah, when, I can remember when Dave was the Shellfish warden, there, you know, it would usually be, it would always be on those days when, okay, it got warm enough at 9 o'clock.
Right.
And it has to get warm by 10, so we went out, and then right around 1, 2 o'clock, the sun would start to angle down, and Dave would drive out in the boat and say, it's too cold, come in, and we go in. But,
Kind of rare.
I mean, that day that we went last year, by the time we all got in, we got to go back out, so. It just complicated where, I mean.
Well, that's almost a negative effect of today's technology versus it helping in a way. If we didn't have such quick access to what the temperature is, probably wouldn't even be an issue. You'd be out there and be able to stay out there. You're not gonna be able to tell it's dropped 2 degrees when you're hauling back and culling, because you're staying warm by your activity, maybe not color, but anyhow, all right. Anything else?
Actually, can we talk for another 15 minutes so we can have another 2-hour meeting so I can say we have a record long?
No, I'm
meeting?
trying to get through this, Peter, and so would you like to, should we request MMA come in and give a buoy report?
Or that, or just if Tara just sends that,
I'm sending it right now.
yeah, that would be great. I just want to see
Okay.
it. I don't necessarily
Okay.
need a presentation, but.
So nothing, to add to next meeting agenda?
Can I add something that? Can we add my proposal for the coupon proposal that I sent everybody through email? Can we discuss that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Peter, can you jot that down?
Everybody got that email?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, did you get it, Tara?
I'm not sure.
I will double check here. I did send it to you. Can resend it if you'd like to.
Find it.
12,000 you made
Yeah,
there.
right.
Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing or hearing any, I'll accept, our
Motion to
next
adjourn.
meeting is November 19th. I'll accept that.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. DeCosta, seconded by Mr. Anderson to adjourn tonight's meeting. Any comments? All in favor, Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, everyone.
Then we'll know president by the next meeting.
Now we can make the decision. Price is up, we're good now.
Question for you. I know you're busy and everything in the world. At some point, if I bring you, 4 regular dredges.
Yeah.
Can you cut them and put,
It's gonna be a while.
I'm not, I don't expect it for this year.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe the end of the season, but I just don't. I got a bunch of
Right.
dredges.
You on-
I
Have you all
wanna
voted?
try 'em.
Yes.
Yeah,
Was it busy?
I don't even know. how
it
to-
was. I went in at about 9:30.
Yeah.
I mean, there was space in the booth, but most of the booths were,
Hopefully.
We got to pick golf in one day.
Yeah,
So we can say he went
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, he went this year.
I find it so much easier just to
I
have
saw
them out
him.
there.